Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Muslim Marriage Podcast, where we talk about healthy relationships from a Muslim lens. I'm Zahra Hassan.
And I'm AJ, and we've been married for 3 years now.
And let's get started.
Let's get started.
On this week's episode, we're going to be speaking about single mothers. A lot of what we say is going to be applicable to both single parents, so single fathers and single mothers. But because of the stigma that is associated with being a single mother in the Muslim community, there is an additional layer of difficulty or challenge when it comes to navigating and trying remarriage as a single parent. So that's why we're going to speak from the perspective of single mothers, but everything that we say can be applied to single fathers as well. Having said all that, now let's actually get started.
Let's get started.
Okay. So this week, as usual, we're going to start with a question, In Shaa Allah, and spend the rest of the episode trying to answer that question. Make sense?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so this is coming from the Muslim Marriage subreddit. And it's a sister who's asking. She says, "Does anything make remarriage easier if you have children?" Okay, so just bear with me. There's a lot of moving parts to this question. The sister says, "What makes things easier when you have children? For people open to dating others with children, I just wanted to know what people's preferences are when looking at someone with children for a relationship." In this case, she means marriage. "Is it better if the father is in the picture providing child support, or no father at all? Is it better if there are multiple children, grown children, or babies? Is it better if the mother is working full-time, part-time, or a stay-at-home mom? Does it help or hinder if the mom has a good job like a doctor but flexible on days? Or is it better if she stay at home as needed? I prefer to look at other single parents. What complications can arise from two single parents rather than one with children and one without? I understand now seeking a marriage is made more complicated if you have children and you want a Muslim spouse. I haven't found many other Muslim single parents at all. I have one child who is 4. He's in full-time school and sleeps 10 to 12 hours at night, meaning I give him attention mornings and a few hours after school. I have Muslim friends who support with childcare and vice versa. I do naturally seek out others who have children his age. I like doing those family-friendly things together, and him having socialization with children his age. He is very social, mashallah. I focus a lot on Islamic education as well as secular." Okay, so that question is a little bit long and extended. If based on what you remember from it,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Okay, so it's asking what are men comfortable with, like the ideal type of single mother to marry.
Yes.
Right? With regards to that, I would say that in an ideal world, an ideal scenario, it would be best for her to not have to work so that she can focus on raising the child.
Yeah.
Not just her child, but any children that they also conceive together.
Okay.
And raise together. In an ideal world, it would be the husband who would be able to financially support everyone.
Okay.
Right? We're not currently living in an ideal world.
Alhamdulillah.
That changed 60, 70 years ago? Something to do with new wave feminism. Not old feminism, new wave feminism.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
I think even now, the women, they're regretting that decision to want to join the workforce. Right?
Was it their decision?
The women?
Yeah.
They were tricked into it, I would think, by the high class, the rich. They made it seem like joining the workforce was desirable. And then they fell for it.
All right.
Now they're like us, toiling and sweating.
All right. I might be learning some things about you.
They're like us. Yeah.
during this podcast. The historically why women went to work particularly in the West had a lot to do with the world wars, right? So after all the men or the majority of the men were drafted into the wars, it was up to the women to go out and keep the country running, and enter the workforce, especially in positions which were traditionally for men. And then when the men came back, and as part of the new world order being established and everything being shifting, there was a lot of shifting that happened at that time. One of the things that happened is they said, let's just keep the women working, right? So whether or not it was actually the decision of women to continue working on their own,
Sure.
today it's not really a decision for most women, and whether or
It's not a decision for anyone.
yeah, there are some who have the ability to make that decision of whether or not she wants to work, simply due to their circumstances. But for the majority of people, it's not a decision. And I don't think that it's a value. It's something that should be assigned to feminism. I don't think feminism is determined by whether or not a person wants to work or doesn't want to work, right? Because if we remember, within Islam, wanting to work or wanting to educate yourself, these aren't bad things, right?
Of course.
Yeah, these are not bad things.
In risk of the entire episode being about feminism,
Okay.
I just want to touch on Islam has the perfect answer for everything,
Of course,
right?
yes.
It has the women that want to work, the women that want to learn are free to do so.
Yes.
Right? The men have to work.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But in the non-Islamic philosophies,
Yeah.
right? I agree with you. They were more so tricked into it, right? There were some women that were trying to use financial responsibility, independence, as a means of trying to push away from this patriarchy, right?
Yeah.
So it was part of the feminist movement in some extent, but I think I've learned something new here with what you've told me, that it was the war. And a lot of changes are made because of wars, like taxes, for example.
Yeah.
That was a temporary thing to help with the war effort, and it ended up becoming permanent. Yeah. And not only that, it ended up becoming like 50%.
Yeah.
You know? A lot of things happened because of war.
Yeah, so that was just a very, very simplified
TSA.
Yeah.
The TSA was also war.
Okay, so that was a very simplified summary of how I understood what it was that happened. But you're right. Going back to our topic at hand, right? Regardless of what is the mechanism that makes a single parent, whether a single father or a single mother, I think that mechanism doesn't really matter, right? Because the reality of the situation is that now this individual finds themselves responsible for the well-being and the life of a little one. Right? And whether or not that little one eats depends on this one person by themselves. Whether or not they have somewhere to sleep depends on that person by themselves, and so on. Yeah. And another consequence of us living where we live is progressively isolating people, so that when I say this is a single parent, when you're a single parent in 2025 or 2024, you are actually a single parent. You don't have access to relatives who are going to help you, or a community in place to help you. In fact, in the Muslim community, especially if you are a single mother, you're going to receive stigma rather than support, right? That's the unfortunate state of where things are. So as a single parent, given all that you have to go through, once you reach a time of seeming stability, right, where your children are happy and you're able to support them, In Shaa Allah, and now whatever it was whatever trauma took place to make you a single parent, that you've healed sufficiently from that you are now at a place where you are clear-minded enough Because for every single person who's looking for a spouse, step one is to be clear-minded enough to be able to see to assess the people in front of you accurately and assess their intentions accurately to make sure you're making the right decision. So you're a single parent, you're in this position, and now you're looking for a spouse, and you have all the questions that this sister asked.
Yeah.
Right. The first thing I would say to the sister is that the approach is incorrect.
Yeah.
Because the way that she's approaching things is, how do I make myself or my circumstances most ideal for a potential man?
Yeah.
You're already putting yourself in a position.
She's saying, how do I beautify myself? Peacock stance.
Well, yeah, but not so much as beautifying herself, but her situation.
Mm-hmm.
And if a brother had asked this question, I would be saying exactly the same thing, where you are asking a question of how should you idealize your situation for a woman. That's never the situation. That's never the approach that you should take when trying to find a spouse, especially when a child is involved.
Yeah.
Right.
One example of a parallel to that for the men is if they take out a large loan to drive like an Audi or a Mercedes to appear that like they have wealth, right?
Yeah.
They're harming themselves.
Yeah.
In order to look more appealing.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that you don't want to do as a single mother or a single father, is to change your nature to try to appeal to others.
Yeah. And especially many of the situations that the sister, in this case the sister, was asking was regarding the circumstances for the family that she's created with her child. You don't want to adjust any of that. You want to create the family. You want to create the living arrangements and circumstances that is best for you and for your child. They are the priority, and creating a good home for them is the number one priority. So if creating a good home for your child is that you have to go out to work in order to be able. So for example, let's say your child has special needs.
Yeah.
And they need more things. There are more expenses that come along with that. That means it's in your child's best interest that you have more income, right? So you're going to have to go out to work.
Yeah.
Let's say that there's an infinite number of examples, but the idea is do what's best for your child. And everything else will come secondary to that. The right person that you are looking for, who is going to be a good match for you and for your child, is not going to be concerned with any of that.
Yeah.
Whether you are a man or you are a woman. So if you're a man looking for a sister, or if you're a woman looking for a brother, who is going to enter your family, they are not concerned with those things. Instead, what they're concerned with are how you are going to add to their life.
Yeah.
Emotionally, are you going to be a supportive figure in their life emotionally? Do you have shared values? Do you have good character? Do you have all of the things that we always talk about, right? Is there a good connection between the two of you? Do you have the capacity, given all the trauma that you've gone through, do you have the capacity to be able to participate in a healthy relationship right now?
Yeah.
And build a healthy marriage right now? So those are the things that the right person is going to be concerned with. Right? And in turn, those are the things that you are also concerned with, In Shaa Allah. So if we were to address just even a few of some of the scenarios, right? In general, what she's asking is, do I have a good chance at finding a spouse? Or is there a set of circumstances that would give me a better chance at finding a spouse, given that I have a 4-year-old son?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a set of circumstances where it's easier for somebody to say yes to marrying a single parent?
There can always be circumstances, right?
Mm-hmm.
It depends on what type of person you're looking for,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Like a superficial person,
Yeah.
a vain person,
Mm-hmm.
could say your circumstances, you need to be beautiful and wealthy,
Yeah.
right? Like there's always circumstances.
So it's the same as always. It's not really all that different.
It's the thing is, when someone says, "Is there a set of circumstances that I can apply to myself to make myself look more appealing, right, for marriage?"
Yeah.
The answer is going to be yes.
Yeah.
Right. Now it's up to you to decide what those circumstances are.
Yeah.
Like, in which way do you want to be appealing? Do you want to appeal to the worst of the worst, or do you want to appeal to a pious man? You know,
that's true.
It depends.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so quickly, if we were to speak to the single parents, what are some of the things that she can take into consideration, or he can take into consideration when they're trying to find a spouse? Number one, make sure that you are in a position, right? And this is true for everyone who is looking for a spouse. Make sure you're in a position where you have the capacity, that you are healed enough. You don't have to be healed 100%. None of us is healed 100%, right? But you are healed enough that you are able to, number one, see clearly of who it is that's in front of you, and number two, are able to participate in a healthy way with your new marriage, right? With this new marriage, with this new individual. That's the first thing that you're going to do. Number two, the vetting process is going to be even more important for you, because the stakes are raised, stakes are higher. There's a little one at play, and there are all kinds of people who are going to be interested in you simply because you have a child, right? And so it's important to be able to do your best to filter out those people, and to choose somebody who's actually good for you and your child. So the vetting process is even more important. So whenever a single parent asks me, what sort of timeline, how long should I speak to somebody before we go ahead with marriage? For somebody who's not a single parent, I usually say 3 months to 6 months, right? But for somebody who is a single parent, I would wait at least 6 months, right? Take your time. If you can get references, get references. Reduce and minimize the risk as much as possible. I wouldn't engage in anything long distance if I was a single parent, because it's much more difficult to vet someone when they're not there in the same community as you, at least physically in the same community as you. So I would only focus on people who are in the same area, and just take your time vetting, going through all the things that we've discussed in previous podcasts. A good episode is the one that's literally called How to Choose Your Spouse. Those goes through the general principles of of how to choose your spouse. Yeah. So vet carefully. Another something else to keep in mind when you are looking as a single parent is, when should this person meet your children? So when do you think they should meet their children?
As soon as you buy a gun.
Okay. We should start there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just let him know. You say, hey, I got a gun with me. Come on in. All
right. This is, I don't think this episode's going to make it onto the internet. But that is definitely one way to do it. But the idea, I agree with the idea that I would wait. I would wait. Just like I recommend that clients wait before they meet face to face, that you go through a series of steps to vetting before you meet face to face, because once you've met face to face, feelings start to grow, attachment starts to grow, and you become a lot less clear headed. So in that same way, I would wait even longer to not only meet face to face, but for them to finally meet your children. I would wait until after they've met everyone else in your family. And it is pretty clear that the two of you are going to go ahead and get married at that point. So that might be 6 months in. Yeah. Right. A significant amount of time in, then under an Islamic setting, for them to meet your child or your children. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you can say, I have a boy, I have a girl, right? Yeah. You can even talk about them. Yeah. Like, describe them. Yeah. But it's like meeting in person. There's like a certain intimacy there, like a certain familiarity. Yeah. Right. So you want to make sure that the children are safe.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's
on both sides, like for men and women.
absolutely. A reason why I recommend that people wait is because that not only did the parent go through trauma and becoming a single parent,
Yeah.
so did the children.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if they're old enough to understand what's happening around them. And by telling them, like by introducing them to people too early,
The relation could fall apart.
Yes.
And then suddenly there's like 15 other people, right?
Even one other person. Even if it's just one other person.
Like, but they're going to keep seeing new faces.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be like freaking them out.
Yes, exactly. It's better to risk that, okay, because the follow-up question that people have whenever I tell them this is, well, what if we wait the 6 months and we wait to so-and-so, and then they meet, my child meets this person and my child really doesn't like them. Right? Sometimes the children are a little bit older, right? And they really don't like them. Then I would sit down, have a conversation with your child and try to understand what it is, what's going on. Sometimes it's simply that they're not emotionally, just because you're emotionally ready for remarriage doesn't mean that they are, right? It takes them a little bit longer to process.
Yeah.
So maybe the child is a little bit older and they are just not emotionally ready. And it might not be the individual, but it might be the process.
Yeah.
And that's something that's going to require counseling, therapy, some sort of support for your child, right? So you could, if you think that it's the process and not the individual, maybe you can put things on hold for a little bit, and give them a chance to catch up emotionally to where you are, and then reassess later on if this is something that you want to go through. Yeah. The right man, the right woman is not going to have a problem with any of this. They will wait. Yeah. Right?
It could even be something as simple as their souls just don't clash with each other, you know? Yeah. Like before people are brought to earth, right? The souls were in heaven just amongst each other. Yeah. And the ones that you interact with, those are the ones that you have a natural affinity towards on earth. And the ones that you didn't meet, those are the ones that you have a natural repulsion towards on earth. Right. So they may perhaps they didn't meet. Maybe you and him met, but the children didn't meet him. You know?
It could be, but actually that brings us to the second point, because it could be that the issue is with the individual, not with the process. Yeah. Right? Usually it might be some combination of both, but let's say the issue is with the individual. You know, I really don't like him. Yeah. Or I really don't like her. I don't have a good vibe, etc. I don't like that she said this to me or that he said this to me. The issue could be with the individual. My advice to you is, if marriage is already very hard. Yeah. There is already a lot of risk involved in marriage. And if there's a chance, especially if your child is a little bit older, right? If they're, 9, 10 years old and older, and they understand what's happening around them, and they really don't like this person, it won't be worth it. Because what it will do, number one, is it'll make your child possibly feel unsafe in their home. Yeah. Because this is somebody who is not technically a family member, who's suddenly inside their house and has a lot of access to them.
And they're eating their cereal. Yeah. They're like, tricks are for kids.
Okay. All right, silly rabbit. But so it's important to make sure that they feel safe within their home. Like if you can think back to what it was like as a child, some of us did grow up with single parents and we remember going through this experience, right? So if you can think back what it's like to be at that age, to feel that small, that vulnerable, it's important that you remain their safe space and you keep their home the safe space. There are so many different men, there are so many different women. If this person is not a good match for your child, then it's fine. There will be others.
I agree. Yeah, there's always going to be others. It's always better to prioritize the children first before any potential partner. Yeah. Because if the children don't like your husband, right, then there's going to be that discord in the relationship. Yeah. There's going to be there's going to be arguments. There's going to be infighting. Something is going to happen. Yes. Where at one point in time it's going to become like a bi-weekly thing or a weekly thing, even a bi-daily thing. Yeah. Where you guys always talk about the children, like, why are you treating him badly? Yeah. Or why are you not treating him as well as her?
Yeah.
right? If you guys have your own children, there's going to be some sort of favoritism because that's a natural thing. If someone feels disliked, they're not going to go out of their way to be useful or helpful to them, and they're going to prefer the person that likes them, right? So there's going to be injustice, inequality in that.
Okay.
So I agree with you. Always better to prioritize the children.
Just to piggyback off what you said, because there's already so many factors at play in trying to establish a home with at least 3 of you, that you want to give yourself the best possible chance to minimize as much of that discord right from the get-go. We should probably one day do a whole episode on what marriage looks like after the wedding day for single parent families, right? We'll work on that a different day, inshallah, of how to divide, like have conversations about disciplining children and all those things that come into play. But with regards to look for a spouse, when you're looking for a spouse as a single parent, the young lady here in the original question, she asked a number of questions. One of them was, is it better to approach other single parents? Is there a demographic of people that would give me a better chance, is I think what she's trying to say, that would give me a better chance of establishing a happy home. I think focus on the individual rather than their labels too much. Their labels might be able to give you some information. So if the other person was, for example, previously married, I always think that's an asset, because that means somebody's bringing to the table experience of what the responsibility and everything that goes into actually being married. Or if the other person is also a single parent, definitely that can be an asset, right? So their labels
can be,
yes, it can be actually an asset, because they have a deeper understanding of what you're going through than somebody who's not a single parent, right? And in addition to that, they will be more sincere. Like you will be filtering for more sincere people, because a person is generally not going to want to go into remarriage unless they're ready for this extended vetting process, right? So this person will more likely want marriage, and will more likely want marriage for the right reasons. Again, these are helpful labels, but it's better to do is look at the individual as an overall, like to step back and make sure that you're looking at the whole forest rather than the leaves, right? Rather than just the labels, of going through and making sure they have good character. Are you compatible, capacity, connection, all the things we talk about. So that's how I would approach it. There's not going to be much so to summarize, when you are looking for a spouse as a single parent, number 1, take care of your mental health, make sure that you're ready, right? Number 2, the vetting process is going to be a lot longer, right? And that's fine. It will take time, and that's perfectly fine. Number 3, prioritize your children in all aspects, including waiting to introduce your children to anybody. And if it's not a right fit, that's fine. This is just a part of life. These things happen, and you'll find somebody else that is a right fit. So generally, those 3 principles should be able to help a single parent at least have a good starting point of where to start. Inshallah.
Inshallah.
All of that makes sense?
It makes a lot of sense. Okay. Sorry, as you were talking, just a whole bunch of jokes were flying through my head.
I could see them.
Every time you say, like, you said, what was it? You said, don't focus on the leaves, focus on the forest. And I was going to say, if you focus on the leaves too much, you'll see the forest run away and start a shipping company.
It's good.
Bubba Shrimp.
Shipping company.
Shrimping company, yeah.
Okay, that's...
And then you also said, if it's not a right fit, you must quit.
I'll quit. Yes, all right.
Not a quit. No one's going to trial here. You must quit.
If it's not the right fit,
quit the relationship.
You must quit. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I like that slogan.
And one thing I want to leave everyone with.
Yeah.
Right. With regards to the secularism, people have a bad idea of single mothers, because the non-Muslims, right, what they believe is the easiest way for the inception of a single mother is out of wedlock. That's where they're getting this bad idea of women with children, is that they think that they was no wedlock involved, right? And they think that they chose wrong, right? They're like, oh, you chose a bad man, and now you have to live with, quote unquote, the actions of your consequences.
The consequences of your
actions. They consider the children.
Yes,
the consequences of, exactly.
Yes.
They consider the children consequences in that case, which is unfortunate, right? But in Islam, right? What I want you guys to Google after our episode, who are the gray-cheeked ones, right?
Yeah.
The ones that it's been narrated that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that he will be the first one to try to open the gates of Jannah.
Yeah.
And there will be a woman attempting to open the gates before him.
Yeah.
And he'll ask, who are you?
Yeah.
And she'll say, I'm the woman who raised my child as an orphan and devoted myself to raising him to adulthood.
Yeah.
Right? And there will be women who have lost their husband and devoted themselves to raising their child to adulthood.
Yeah. That
will be able to enter Jannah.
Yeah.
Alongside the Prophet.
Yeah.
With him. He'll be the first one. With him they'll be entering. So
SubhanAllah.
If I were to tell you, right? If I, astaghfirullah, were to point at a person and say that person right there is going to be entering heaven alongside the Prophet, you would think, I want to be like that person.
Yes.
So why we look bad on single mothers?
I will never understand it. I will never, even before when I was coaching non-Muslims, both men and women, I would come across a lot of single mothers who were not Muslim. And again, the mechanism, at the end of the day, the mechanism by which a person came to be a single parent is relevant as far as it will inform the trauma that this person has to heal from. But other than that, it doesn't really matter, because the circumstances are the same, that you are now in a place where a little one's life depends upon you, and what their success depends upon your ability to provide for them in every single way. And subhanallah, that is a challenge that I cannot imagine for anyone who's ever taken care of a child, even just for an hour. You understand what it is to have to do that all the time by yourself, all the days when you are sick and you still have to take care of your child, all the days when your child is sick and you're up all night with them and there's no one else to be up with you, all of the morning routines you do by yourself, the night routines, all of the times that you're afraid for their well-being and you just carry that fear by yourself without anyone to share it with. Like, all of these things add up to require a strength from the individual that is not required from most of us. So whenever I come across a single mother, in my opinion, she is for sure a stronger woman than I. Immediately she has my respect because she's a stronger woman than I. And one of the lies that she has been somehow she's convinced of by the societal discourse is that she is weaker, which is an outright lie. So to my dear single mothers and to the single fathers, especially if you are Muslim or non-Muslim, but if you are Muslim, then God or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has called you to a challenge that he has not called most of us, and has called from you strength that most of us don't have, and you have a position with him that only Allah knows. So forgive us, your society, forgive us for the ones who have to stand beside you on Judgment Day, who weren't there for you. Just all we can ask from you is our forgiveness, and for the rest of us, we need to do better, inshallah. We need to support our brothers and sisters in our community. And at the very least, if we can't support them with our hands and our wealth and our time, the least we can support them by protecting them from our tongues.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Hopefully this episode was useful. Inshallah. Do you think there's anything else we need to add?
It's not as joke laughable as our usual episodes because it's such a serious topic.
Yes, it is.
But I'm looking forward to being a wild and wacky guy once again.
Okay. I think everyone is, inshallah. No, the reason why this is one of those episodes that takes a little bit more serious is Timber is because of the stigma that was associated, that is there, which is unfair. So because we have to take time to speak that away, it does take some more serious tone.
Yeah.
But what I do know is that once you are dear sister or dear brother, inshallah, once you're in a place where you are ready for remarriage, there are plenty of brothers and sisters who are happy to join your family, inshallah. Yeah. And what's written for you is written for you, and I have seen so much success for both the men and the women. So Jazaa K'Allah Khayr, if you've made it this far, is there anything we should add?
No, alhamdulillah, I think we covered a lot.
Okay.
If you guys have any questions, any things that we missed, go ahead and comment. Yeah, go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and like. Hit the bell icon. I'm learning a lot of things.
You are?
Yeah, hit the bell icon.
Is there still a bell?
Apparently.
Okay, inshallah, if there's a bell.
Hit the bell icon.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so Jazaa K'Allah Khayr, if you made it this far, we really appreciate you. And like you said, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to our channel. It really helps us out. It helps us to get the message out there. If you are a single parent, please let us know if we got it right or if we got it wrong. Right? And if you're a single parent who has remarried, our people need your advice. They need to hear from you more than they need to hear from us. Please write in the comments what your experience has been like. So Jazaa K'Allah Khayr. Oh, and finally, if you are a single woman and you are on the dating apps, and you are as exhausted by them as everyone else is, I offer a free webinar. You can find a link to that on the about section. If you're listening to this on YouTube, you can also find a link to that in the description on any other podcast platform, or you can find a link to it on my Instagram page at Zahra Hassan Coaching. So Jazaa K'Allah Khayr. You have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.